There have been many board games in the past, but today's simple looking game that is actually more complex than what you might think is Connect 4. It's also called 4 in a Row, as well as many other names. Connect 4 is a board game in which two people play against each other. The way to make progress in the game is by dropping a disc in any of the 7 columns vertically. One player has red discs and the other yellow ones. The goal of the game is to drop these discs inside of the 6x7 grid in a way that 4 discs connect. They have to be straight and can be vertical, horizontal, and diagonal. They are dropped once per round, so you have to be careful about your decisions. A fun mathematical fact is that there is around 4.5 quadrillion possible configurations, including the empty one. And the quickest win possible is piling up. But the name Connect 4 was first made up by Milton Bradley's company in 1974. The company being founded by Milton Bradley in Springfield, Massachusetts in 1860. They made numerous board games such as Connect 4 and also worked with video games. And ever since, Connect 4 became a well-known board game to play with your friends. You came on this video to learn more about the simple looking game that's actually harder than what you might think. You'll realize that as you watch more of this video. So here's my full extensive guide on Connect 4. I'll start by saying that in the game, both players are trying to get 4 in a row. To get your victory more easily, you make traps. And to stop your opponent from winning, you have to block their pieces, trying to imagine what moves they're gonna make to win. The first principle is about the first move in the game. Generally, the closer you have your first move to the middle of the row, the better your chances of winning becomes. You can make your game longer just by moving it there. Much like chess, it's important to lay a foundation for victory early in the game. And since Connect 4 is a game with a maximum of 42 moves, it's quick to play. I played this game so many times, before and now, as I started getting interested again. And for half of the games, there is a trap people always pull, the one on the bottom row. It is easy to avoid, but I recommend you don't make this trap, since you'll be better off building higher for more opportunities. At the start of the game, it will greatly benefit you to place your pieces in the middle column. If your pieces aren't there, well, you'll have less chances of winning. Think of your next moves after placing your discs in the middle. A simple concept of trapping is to create this shape that looks like an angle or 7. With this placement, you have 2 ways to win, horizontally and diagonally. Of course, if there's no other disturbances, do not hesitate to trigger the trap by placing discs in the column. This is one of the ways to trap, but this one pushes your opponent to act upon the most. The plays being done here are genius. Another way of trapping is just preparing a 4 in a row, diagonally or horizontally, in a set column. But for that, we need to understand the odd and even principle, which you will see later in the video. Check the moves of your opponents and see if they're preparing a 4 in a row. Usually, they will place discs on top of yours. The trap of the double win can be applied in many ways. If you're making a 2 wide disc tower with diagonals, be careful that your opponent does not trap you like this. Keep a mental note of the whole game, how it can all change in the next moves, and also how the game will end from the foundation you have in the beginning. Now, a way of seeing the game is the notion of odd and even players, meaning that the odd numbers of discs dropped corresponds to the first one that played, and the even number is the second one to move. With this strategy, you can imagine the board having odd and even rows, going from the bottom, which is the first row, all the way up, reaching the 6th row. If you're the first player, focus on the 3rd and 5th row to get a win. At the end of the game, if you have one column that is not touched, you can get the win if you place your discs right. To trap the second player by making him place the second move of this column. which in turn gives you the win on the third move of the column. This happens because we know that the last column is always going to be odd, even, odd, even, odd, and even. Furthermore, a column has 6 places, with a row having 7 places. If the game is left with one column, that will mean that 6 columns are completed. 6 times 6 equals 36. So the player with the odd number will make the 37th move of the game, as well as the first move of that column. And for even numbers, you can secure the 2nd, the 4th, and the 6th row. With this mindset, you will take time to think about how you play at first, but with practice, you will get the hang of it. When you get your correct placement, you'll have to try to block your opponent's chances of winning. But with this example, we can see that the second player secures a win in the lower parts of the board. If the trap was higher, the opponent could have gotten the lower part before you, making them the winner. In this case here, the red disc is the first player to move. He has an odd row win here. You think he's gonna win the game, right? Well, you're wrong. The second player has 2 odd row wins, and because there are 2 columns with only 5 places, the next move is the red disc, which leads to the victory of the even player. It does take some brain usage to pull this technique, but like I said, it gets easier the more you practice. I learned some quick tips for certain cases I encountered across many games. I previously mentioned how you can trap noobs, right? Well, an advanced way of doing that is diagonally. If the opportunity is clear and your opponent doesn't suspect a thing, you pull this move. It works the same way as the early trap, but it's more subtle and should be used when the opportunity is given. About forcing your opponents, a smart and big brain move you can pull on your adversary is to prepare a quick connection which they will block. But you use the disc that they just placed to bring you closer to a trap that you planned before. Although from the games that I played, I found that vertical connections are much less reliable as opposed to diagonal and horizontal connections commonly used for traps. This is off topic of strategy, but I find it funny to think about how the game would be different if gravity didn't exist. Where would the disc land? And another fact about the game is the step tuplet check, where anywhere you place is a winning move. This is how a typical game between 2 highly skilled players would play out. It ends up being a tie, but there's a lot of thoughts put into this game. The red disc here allows to make a triangle, but yellow blocks it and both players made this tower. We see 3 columns of opportunity on the right. That's where most of the action will happen. The top layer blocked yellow from being able to win at the end, and this exact place would be ideal for yellow, so yellow would need to force it. At the same time, there's blockings of ways to make 4 in a row for red, but the blocking follows suit. But then red moves here, which forces yellow to go here because of this trap. Then red takes the initial strategical points. Yellow's best option is probably to move to the 6th column since it will block red. Then again the blocking goes again. But luckily for yellow, red prepared a 2nd row win even if red made the first move, and in turn we get a tie. And lastly, here's our last example of the video, which will prove why control of the center is optimal for a win. We're taking the point of view of the red player. Moving to the left more, we're focusing on taking control of the center, and we're getting angles where we can get 4 in a row. As always, block easy places your enemies can win. Despite the control of the middle not being the most efficient, we still got a satisfying win at the end here. So kids, always try to control the middle of the board so you can have as many options as you can. Connect 4 has such a wide range of possibilities. There are millions upon millions of games you can play. And to progress in the game, you really have to pay attention to every single piece as if it is its own character, playing a set role. The piece can be the ultimate blockade, the ultimate attack, or even the worst decision you've ever made. But regardless, thank you for watching the video. I hope you understood more about this game. Don't forget to share it with your nerd friends, as well as subscribing to my channel. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.